With Amazon Prime's Invincible back in the spotlight, it's easy to reminisce about the iconic twist at the end of its very first episode where Omni-Man revealed his true colours and murdered his fellow heroes in cold blood. Not only did it shock the Guardians of the Globe, it shocked viewers all around the world too and became a moment which was spoken about for years to come in superhero fandom. However, today we add a different dimension to this betrayal, and we'll reimagine it from the lens of One Punch Man and its hero association. Would Season 1 Omni-Man have the balls to try this against the S-Class heroes, and would he succeed if he did? We're going to look at multiple angles and answer that question today. So, why did Nolan enact a level of friendly fire that you'd only expect to find online in the early days of Rainbow Six Siege? To refresh your memory, Nolan was under orders from the Viltrumite Empire to conquer Earth for Viltrum's exploitation, and once Mark's powers developed, it served as the catalyst for Nolan to begin eliminating any potential complications in his plan to subjugate Earth. The relationships and reputation Nolan had built within his years on Earth were mostly for nothing more than subterfuge and necessity, putting him in prime position to take Earth's mightiest heroes by surprise once the steps for Viltrumite conquest drew closer. Thankfully, none of us have to worry about colleagues like this in our own working lives. Imagine using the microwave at work when Steve from accounting walks in and suddenly smashes you across the back of the head with a hammer for the glory of planet who knows what. This will be the type of problem the S-Class heroes will have on their hands now. If we reimagine Omni-Man to be a hero upon One Punch Man's Earth, let's picture him as an S-Class hero who joined their ranks under similar circumstances to his own setting. Arriving on Earth, dispatching a demon-level monster single-handedly for the Hero Association to see, then hailing as a being from Viltrum who has come to protect this planet. With Nolan's incredible strength, ability to fly, and apparent interest to help, the Hero Association will be all too excited to have him on board. For the sake of the video, we'll put any negative interference from a My Mask aside and assume he was entered into the S-Class similarly to Genos' immediate rise. However, despite the Hero Association always being a little too happy to accept anyone who will help with their monster problems, this scenario won't change the fact that some S-Class heroes will still feel suspicious of an alien hero who has joined their ranks. It's very reasonable to assume the likes of Zombie-Man, Metal Knight, Flashy Flash, Tatsumaki, and likely a few others will not swallow his stated intentions so easily. So, let's dive in. Having been a part of the Hero Association for a significant amount of time, when Nolan felt the moment was right to eradicate the most dangerous opposition upon Earth to signal the start of Viltrumite conquest, it'd be down to him to take on humanity's strongest shield, the S-Class. From Amazon's Invincible, we saw Nolan begin his attack upon his fellow heroes after luring them to the Guardians HQ with a false alert. Once there, he engaged with a sneak attack aimed at who he deemed the strongest foe, and sought to destroy the rest in open combat. To begin, we're first going to look at the reasons for why Nolan would try this proven strategy within One Punch Man, and what the reasoning would be for this choice from his perspective. First of all, the arrogance of a Viltrumite needs to be accounted for. They seem to think that they cannot lose against those not of their species, at least as far as it goes when facing Earthlings or similarly presented races, and Nolan is no different. This is a man who essentially set himself up for a 7-on-1, with the 7 being some of the greatest heroes on the planet, so he's clearly not lacking in confidence. It wouldn't be out of the ordinary for Nolan to believe that in direct combat, none of these heroes would have what it takes to handle what he can bring when all the chips are down, which leads into the next point. S-Class heroes don't often work together due to both their own pride and scattered placements throughout the different cities, so many of them aren't fully aware of what the others are completely capable of. We see this multiple times within the story before the Monster Association's surface battle. Metal Bat seemed to think he could take on Tatsumaki. Darkshine thinks King can beat Tatsumaki. Flashy Flash suggested no other hero could have dealt with the monster ninjas. Putty Prisoner thinks he's the weakest S-Class when most fans have him above Tank Top Master and Zombie Man. Genos thought no S-Class hero could beat Goketsu, and there's more examples. I won't pile on to save time though. Due to this general lack of exposure to one another in combat scenarios, in many cases the S-Class heroes don't truly know how they compare to one another. And yes, there are some who do know more than others, but I'm speaking more generally before the events of the Monster Association's surface battle. This would be no different for Nolan. He'd possibly have the chance to see how a few of them operate by being around at the right place at the right time. However, he wouldn't be able to get a complete read on most of them without the power of foresight and teleportation. Tie this in with his arrogance of Viltrumite superiority, and it'll be an easy factor for an arrogant alien to overlook. You'd also need to remember that from his perspective, some of them wouldn't look all that much either. If you were a superpowered alien, do you think you'd have much trouble with an old man, some guy with a samurai sword, and a small woman who acts like a brat? What about a man in a furry dog suit? Or some guy who looks you in the eye and tells you with a straight face that his strength comes from wearing a tank top? Yeah, I'd probably think I could beat all these guys too if I came from Viltrum. Couple this in with most of the Hero Association executives being idiotic, ignorant, and obnoxious, or a combination of the three, and you wouldn't blame Nolan for thinking this entire operation is not equipped to handle a rampaging Viltrumite. A high tier Viltrumite like Nolan wouldn't doubt himself in a fight, especially against those of a species he'd consider inferior to him. And if he has the idea in his head that he can just swat these guys aside like flies, it's easy to suggest him cashing in on his own ego and trying to write a check for the S-Class heroes' demise after luring them together for a final meeting. However, while some fans will agree that Nolan would attempt such a bold move, others won't. Don't worry, I've got you guys covered too. If Nolan wanted to conquer Earth and needed the S-Class heroes gone, what are some reasons for why he wouldn't try to sweep through the majority of them in one go? Well, for starters, Nolan's got a bit of a reality check to come to terms with in this version of Earth. The monsters of One Punch Man are no joke once you start getting into the realm of demon level threats, and the S-Class heroes are primarily responsible for dealing with these very problems. Many demon level monsters will have such speed and power that even a Viltrumite would run into problems with them. Even creatures such as Deep Sea King exceed most of the combat speeds shown within Amazon's Invincible series, and Deep Sea King isn't even close to being one of the stronger demon level threats in One Punch Man. If Nolan's clever, he should be able to realize that the struggles and danger which can come from contesting demon level threats will reflect back on the very same S-Class heroes he has it out for. If S-Class heroes are not only fighting, but defeating monsters such as these on their own, it should be a red alert to his brain signaling that maybe he shouldn't be trying to fight more than one S-Class hero at once. I haven't even mentioned dragon level threats yet, so if he were to run into one of those, and then found out that an S-Class hero defeated something of that level, well, he certainly would seek to readjust his strategy if he's thinking clearly. And similarly to how I said before about certain heroes not looking very intimidating to him, the opposite may also happen with others. Hearing constantly about how powerful the strongest man on Earth known as King is, for example, may have Nolan second guessing whether or not he wants to take the chance by fighting him at the same time as everybody else, just in case he really does come as advertised. He may not even want to act too brashly purely off the fact that he knows so little about mysterious types such as Drive Knight and Metal Knight, two powerful yet secretive heroes who he can't gauge the full scope of even if he tried, since he'd have no way to learn about their true arsenals, which would be a surprise he would not want to find out the hard way after putting all of his cards on the table first. Last but not least, there'd be 10 to 16 heroes present if Nolan were to fight them all at once, if we assume that not every S-Class hero will show up for his murderous ruse. 7 on 1 with the Guardians is one thing. 15 or so on 1 is another. It's very possible that even if Nolan did think he can beat all the S-Class, it doesn't necessarily mean he wants to fight more than 12 of them at once. Now, let's get into outcomes. We'll start with how it'd shake out if Omni-Man did decide to attack the S-Class heroes all at once. So, Nolan gets everyone into a room, and while the S-Class are trying to figure out who called this meeting, the Viltrumite swoops in to try and take his first casualty. Who Nolan chooses would be determined by a few different things. Who has he seen fight during this time in this world? Who does he think is the strongest? Does he agree with the rankings, or does he know they're not entirely based on power? So on and so forth. If Nolan believes Tatsumaki to be the strongest, then this ends very prematurely. Tatsumaki always protects herself with a very strong passive barrier, which would certainly enable her to take any kind of attack from Omni-Man, since she's been shown to withstand stronger attacks than anything he has ever performed alone. And her reaction speed level is significantly high enough to not only notice him, but repel him with her powers. However, another issue is that characters such as Drive Knight and Genos are equipped with modifications which enable them to sense strange readings and high-speed movements immediately, meaning if Nolan did attempt to sneak attack anyone from the shadows during the ambush, it would be called out instantaneously by one of the cyborgs who would put everyone on alert for high-speed movement approaching their positions. Additionally, characters such as Flashy Flash and Atomic Samurai can sense killing intent the moment it appears. So unlike the cyborgs who would sense movement, these two would sense the intention before Nolan's attack manifests, so more than one hero would have already been on edge or commented about how someone's giving off a strange sense of bloodlust. What this essentially means is there isn't just one barrier to Nolan pulling off an instant kill, there's multiple, all of which will either expose him independently or together. After Nolan has been found out and his attempt stifled, his biggest problem, aside from Tatsumaki, will be that unlike the Guardians of the Globe, the S-Class heroes will be far less tolerating of his actions. While the Guardians scrambled to figure out what was happening with hesitation in their actions, some members of the S-Class would immediately engage under threat. The more sympathetic and understanding heroes like Prisoner, Bang, Darkshine and Pig God would probably try to ask questions and seek a peaceful resolution upon Nolan's initial attacks. However, the likes of Flashy Flash, Genos, Atomic and Metal Bat are going to be reacting on sight. And if it were Tatsumaki who he made his first move upon, oh my god, it's over. This would be the worst option for Omni-Man to take. Not only are multiple S-Class heroes capable of defeating him alone, but Tatsumaki being involved at all completely sends his chances into the negative zone. He'd be restrained near instantly by Tatsumaki's psychic powers in all scenarios, or promptly dealt with by fiercer S-Class heroes who will hit first and ask questions later. Whether Nolan survives the encounter or not, his loss would be certain, and the only question would be whether he is kept prisoner or eliminated entirely during the conflict. Omni-Man's attempt of conquering Earth via the elimination of the S-Class heroes would be a resounding failure if he reenacted his method of murdering the Guardians of the Globe in the first episode of Invincible. But what if this scenario isn't reflective of the first episode? If Nolan were to decide that defeating the majority of S-Class heroes all at once was not feasible, then his only other method would be trying to single them out one by one, be it through sneak attacks or confronting them somewhere isolated. Judging by how he likes to attack people before they know something's up though, we can assume Nolan may try to attack his target before announcing himself. This method would certainly see more success compared to the previous, and even holds the opportunity to defeat some S-Class heroes before they truly know what is happening. With no monster in sight, and no measure to anticipate a sneak attack from someone they'd consider to be a colleague or even a friend, to suddenly be attacked by someone of Nolan's power would be a significant problem for some of the S-Class. Individuals like Tank Top Master, Pretty Prisoner, Pig God, and Zombie Man would likely not expect a high-speed, full-strength strike suddenly taking them out, and if they did somehow see it coming, the fact it was Omni-Man of all people, someone they think is on their side, would probably leave them open to be taken out instantly amid the confusion, or put into a very compromised position early for Nolan to finish soon after. As you can see, this method, when the right targets are assumed first, will reap more rewards for Nolan and see him get closer to his goal. The issue, however, is similar to the first scenario. Some characters will sense Nolan's approach and even his hostility, be it through cyborg modifications or innate combat instinct. Due to this, Nolan risks his cover being blown at some point or another for reasons he cannot anticipate, and is either killed by the hero he challenges who reacts to his initial attack, or will soon be highlighted to the Hero Association as a traitor, which would essentially mark the end of Earth's conquest, since now they are wizened up to Nolan's behaviour. This video's focus is more on the outcomes and not in-depth power scaling. So if you've seen previous videos I've done involving Invincible characters and know accurate One Punch Man scaling too, it should make it pretty clear which S-Class heroes will overwhelm Nolan, and which of them won't. Nolan making sneak attempts on the lives of heroes such as Tatsumaki, Flashy Flash, Atomic Samurai, or Watchdog Man would end his plot in its tracks, since they all have ways to sense or repel his attempt, along with the ability to eliminate him, with some other S-Class heroes also being likely to do so given what we know of them. Many of the S-Class heroes have significantly faster combat speed than him within planetary conditions, which would render his attacks useless, all while harboring the means to inflict fatal damage to him at varying rates, given what we've seen cause genuine damage to him throughout the series. What people forget is that Viltrumites only appear invincible when against unremarkable firepower, but are not in fact invincible against more significant attack potency, and are shown to be narratively consistent in being harmed by both relative and non-relative characters who possess qualities of being very fast, very strong, or both, something which most S-Class heroes possess in spades. They attack faster than Red Rush, who harmed Nolan with the speed of his punches, and they hit harder than the Immortal and War Woman, whose strikes were enough to leave him in a coma. If that's not enough, some of the S-Class are so much more skilled than him too, such as Flash, Atomic, and Bang, who would all be utilizing all of these strengths with prowess like Nolan has never seen before, since Invincible is a far lower verse on the totem pole of skill-based fighting compared to series like One Punch Man. And before you say, no it's not, look at what Bang does with his foot in mid-air while holding a body above his head. That's not a superpower, that's martial arts on fictional steroids, and you'll never see that level of it in Invincible. What's clear to us all is that if Nolan had landed upon One Punch Man's Earth and decided to eliminate the S-Class heroes for the Viltrum Empire, there's no possible way he could do it, since whether he challenges them outright or attempts to kill them without their knowing, both roads lead to his demise at the hands of more powerful and less forgiving heroes when compared to the Guardians of the Globe. Like the video, let me know in the comments who you think Nolan could defeat and who he'd lose to, then be sure to subscribe. Become a member to join the members only Discord server too. Now go watch some more videos.